Well, hello, and welcome back to Satisfactory. So it's been a little while, and while everyone is recommending you to just start a new world, well, perhaps you want to keep your old world and you want to make it work. And you can. It's not impossible, it's just that everyone just wants to start a new save, and I'm also going to do that, of course. But we have this little series ongoing, and we'll have to continue on this series. So, for this case, and maybe if you made a really beautiful build, you probably want to keep your base. And in this little tutorial, well, I'm going to show you how to adapt your Satisfactory world to 1.0, so it works just fine, so you can continue playing on it. And as for the previous videos in this little series, well, not that much has changed actually. Most of the tips in the videos are still as accurate as when it was made. Even though the first episode came out 2 years ago, not that much has changed. But for the videos where something have changed, well, I'm going to put a little update in the description or a pinned comment where you can read under those videos what may be different. One thing that's different, for example, is that computers don't require screws anymore. But in any case, you might notice that the Fixit hub is a little bit different here. We have the productive packer as we do, we have a little bed thing, and we have a... We can't unfortunately get in here. I would love for them to be usable, but we can kind of, if we jump and click C, we can kind of stand on the ledge at least. Anyways, what is pretty new is that you can customize your character. And I have chosen what I want for this one. We have different helmets and stuff like this. This is just stupid, please remove. Then we have some different setups of the build gun. So we can have alternate build guns too. And we can have different decorations on our build gun, which you will see when you build. We can set some colors too. Anyways, this is really creepy. You now have a camera which will follow you into the bathroom, but whatever. If you are trying to adapt an older world that still is using biomass burners for many of its power production, the biomass burners now have an input. You can see we can actually put in fuel to them automatically. Now, this biomass burner, these are just some kind of backup battery, so they're actually not burning fuel. So I won't bother doing that with these in particular, but if you are relying on biomass burners for fuel, you should probably just automate them. Well, moving on, there are some new things that have been unlocked, and those of course needs to be checked again, because the order where things have been unlocked has changed around. So if you check the tier 0, wherever you are, check the different tiers and see that you can unlock whatever needs to be unlocked. Here you can see under tier 4, we have the new power lines, which I showcased a little bit briefly. So we of course need to unlock this. Just need to get some materials, right? And one really crazy thing that has changed that's really useful is that if you have unlocked the parachute, it's not using itself up anymore. No, we can just jump off the ledge and just boost away with our parachute. Remember, you can shift to boost away with a parachute. And about the movement, one thing that has changed a little bit here is if you hold shift, you will go faster on these power lines. So just moving around here using a parachute, one of this, and of course the cool little leg augmentations. You can move around so quickly. These are called blade runners, right? So shift sprinting with the blade runners and running around like this, it's really darn fast. I think the fastest way to travel is still the what is it called? Hyperloop cannon? No? Hypertube cannon, right? So you can connect up a hypertube cannon to power switch because it draws immense energy. Like look at this thing here. You can see the if we look at the power here rather, we need an actual pole. Never mind. Need to go back there. Yeah, you can see the power consumption went up like this, and that's only to power one small little hypertube cannon. So it can be a good idea to actually turn these off when you don't use them. Just a little tips from the coach. Right, we've connected the materials, so we'll unlock the power lines, right? And these power lines make it easier for fast travel as well, which is very nice. All right. Very nice indeed. There we have it. The power storage, these capacitating units, they are, we already unlocked them. They moved around a little bit, but we have a couple of them here and there around our factory. And if you're pretty new to the game, if you just started, playing it and maybe just started a new world that you wanted to adapt or something like that, you may not know what it is, but it basically just a battery. You connect it up to the power line and they will decharge slowly if there is not enough power input. So then you have like a lot of time, like several hours to fix your power issues before your factory goes down. So it's a really smart thing to have one of these, and they only use the power that is in excess. So if you have excess power, they will use it. If you don't, they will not steal power. So they won't help crashing your power line. So they're really smart. The power tower comes with the power tower with a platform and without a platform. And it's like pretty basic like this. It's just a power tower, you know? It's like before we made these complex shapes to have our power to, but now we don't need to. And they connect up with two lines like this. And the really cool thing with the power tower part is of course that if we climb up here, we can use this little light slider and we can just slide in between. But the really cool thing with them is that you can continue to ride easily. You don't need to have the roof mounted power outlets, the wall outlets. Before you needed to use the wall outlets and mount them in the roof of a structure and in that way glide. Now you can just glide by having this big power tower. So it's a really good way to transport yourself between your different bases. So that's something we'll need to add. But let's say the next area you add to the base. Well, for that area you should definitely have some power towers to go there so it's easier to travel. Because if you played Satisfactory a lot before, you know that it is a bit of a hassle slash yeah, you'll have to get the hang of moving around. Yeah, you can see I failed even. You'll have to get the hang of moving around using the power poles as they are, because then you'll need to disconnect yourself, move into the air and get on it again. Some textures and stuff change. You know, we can see this mushroom is looking more bacony, which is good because that's what it's called. And what also you'll definitely need to know, that's that if you played it a really long time ago, if you press H, you can now holster your things. I think that was not the case before, so that's really nice so you don't have to have things in your hands all the time. Just press H, holstering. Good tip to know, right? If you're having performance issues, I recently made a little guide on walking through the different settings and how to get the most optimal performance. I recommend you check that out, because some settings can be pretty laggy. And there is also a super weird setting you should know about. That's if you go to Options and Video, and you browse down here, and you have something called Upscaling Method. If you switch this to AMD FSR, you will get so much higher FPS. So some people maybe that don't understand this might recommend you this in the future. Even if you have an NVIDIA, you will get more. Or especially if you have an NVIDIA, I think you will get more FPS with the AMD FSR. So some people that don't understand this might recommend you to add that in the future. I made a little short about it just to explain it, but just a little bit quickly. It will introduce so much input lag. So even though you will essentially double your FPS, the input lag will make it hard for you to play the game. When you jump around and want to get on ledges and stuff, you will miss them. And if you're not very perceptive of that change, you might accidentally turn that setting on, think that you really made a smart thing to boost your FPS, but actually you just introduced so much input lag that the game is sluggish, and then you think, oh damn, this game is sluggish, I don't want to play it anymore, and yeah. Anyways, that graphical guide is already out, so check it out if you want that. We will be checking here again. We upgraded, we got the power line here. So unlock whatever you missed and select like the next stages, right? So here you can see the industrial manufacturing. I already unlocked that. So that moved around a little bit. But now you can see we have unlocked stuff on tier 5. So we have a fluid packaging, petroleum power, which is something we already unlocked. We already have a petroleum power plant. We can even get an access to the jetpack now, that's super cool. But we already have fuel power, so if your save is a couple of years old, you may also probably, especially if you watch this tutorial, you have already unlocked the fuel power generators. So we're just gonna unlock this afterwards, just so that we can get everything it has in case we don't, we want to build new power plants, of course. When you fly your parachute, if you didn't know that, you can drop it by pressing C, and it doesn't disappear as said, so get used to that. You won't need to unlock the jetpack as soon as you had to do before, so that's a nice thing.
Milestone reached.
So we already had it, but...
Privilege to inform you that the fuel-powered generator, as well as the industrial fluid buffer, are now available. Due to a lack of gold in your sector, Caterium will serve as a suitable replacement to construct the fuel-powered generator. Your research into this element was valuable. In fact, you in particular...
So you might also notice that the ADA is a little bit funny and updated and stuff like that. So that's fun. But we are now walking over to our fuel power generating area. Oh, look, these changed textures too. Guess we'll collect that.
The astrobiologist Dr. D.M. Mercer was the first to recognize the presence and probable nature of these artifacts. These changes
hard to miss, right?
Spheres are named in his honor. Each sphere.
Yeah, so you just said we can research them in the MAM now. That's a new thing too. Anyways, when we are moving over here, we can see that if we check our power in general, we can see that our power is a lot higher than our consumption, and that wasn't the case before. So you might wonder what has actually happened. Well, an update to the efficiency of the fuel generators, that has happened. So you can hear here that they slow down and then they start up again. So here we can have an efficiency that's a little bit shaky. Obviously, we do not have enough fuel that comes to all of them, right? This is going at 100%. So the ones most down the line are a little bit less efficient, so we'll need to investigate this. Oh damn, it looks like our mobs have respawned a little bit too. Which is bad news. But anyways, this is the reason why most people will recommend you to just start a new world. Because otherwise, if you really want to keep your old base, you'll have to do some stuff like this. Like, look at this, we have 95% efficiency here, 95 here, so we'll need to investigate why this is. But really, it's not harder than that we go to our different production facilities and we see the efficiency values, right? We can see this is seem to be going fine. We're using a lot of crude oil, or producing some oil residue there. So we can also see if something is clogged anywhere. Like here we can see this one is idle. Why is this idle? Something seemed to have happened, right? So this might be one of the answers. Oh, and this is a new little thing too. If you have the boombox, you can trigger the turbo bass And if you trigger this turbo base thing, these pesky flies will just die. Maybe all of them are dead now, but whatever. But that is anyways something that can happen, that weird things can have happened to your factories. So you'll need to go to each of the factories, right? And check them one by one, basically. Which is a little bit annoying. Now we can switch between noodle, vertical out to different ones. That's fine. Now we can see this one is now outputting.
Contain any fluid.
Right, so now we have solved that. We have a better whole... all the heavy oil residue is escaping our production here. And the ratios should be the same as before. So now everything should be starting to move to a balanced level. And as everything else in Satisfactory, you'll need to give it some time to see if it balances out. And see if everything works as it should. But here we can see we got this oil thing here. And if any of your nodes change, so that's another thing, you need to check that the nodes didn't move. You can see this is still extracting oil here, so that's absolutely fine. It's boosted and all as we set it up to be on a pure node. But if they moved, you of course need to move your extractors or miners or whatever. We're going to check everything basically, because there are some specific nodes that have moved, but your playthrough may be in another area than the northern forest. So yeah, then it of course will be different. So that's just what I'm saying. You need to check your factories and see if they're producing the same thing as they did. If any weird pipe got disconnected, like in this case, we got a disconnected line, right? Here you can see this efficiency level is slowly ticking upwards. And when this is reaching 100%, the others will be affected as well. So basically what we do now is we'll leave it be, and then we'll just recheck it a little bit later and see if everything has fixed itself. Since we know that the values are the same, that should only be that needs fixing. Now you can see that the fuel makers, the refineries cooking our fuel, our residual fuel, they are more efficient. They are slowly going up to efficiency. We're gonna check the output here, 40 times 3. So altogether we have 120 fuel per minute. And that goes to all of these machines, right? So we will recheck that to see that the consumption of them is set up correctly. Each one of them take 20 square meters per minute. And none of them have been overclocked, so that's an important way to check. And we also count exactly how many of them we have, so we know that it's set up correctly. So here we have our answer. The fuel generators together, they are actually taking, we have 10 of them, so they're taking 200 square meters per minute, and we're only producing 120. If you do plastic from oil directly, you get heavy oil residue as a byproduct, right? And you get 10 per minute, and if you instead select rubber, you get 20 per minute. So that's kind of the difference. If we reformulate what we're doing, we might get a different ratio, and that might mess things up a little bit. But every of these were plastic, so we're gonna keep them at that. We are possibly also having, you know, when you have a base you haven't played for a while, and it's possible that you just forgot to fix some stuff, and that can be a thing too. Now I can show you this thing. When they come along here, we can just turbo boost them, and they, well, they get squished. It's super handy. So if you're having an issue like this in the fuel way, you have two ways to solve the issue. If you need the extra power, you of course need to make more fuel. The simplest thing to make more fuel is just to make fuel from crude oil directly, and you get some residual hard bits, and you can just throw that in the bin and you have a quick fix. I don't quite need that much, right? So the simplest way for me is that I have, well, I just turn off some machines. And it's quite simple. You see we produce 120 fuel per minute, as said before. Damn, I need some ledges to walk around here. And that of course means that we can have in total 6 machines online, because 6 times 20 is 120. And more machines than we thought were running, because we have a buffer system. This buffer system is slowly draining out because, well, we only produce 120, and here we have the machines requesting some more. And there we go. Now we should have 6 machines online, which you can see on the green rods, of course. That's a smart way to see if they are online. And there we go. So our fuel/plastic production is now fixed. So basically, we need to go to the different parts of our map just to see if our factories are doing a-okay. The thing that can happen is that a node can have been moved, and if a node has been moved, well, that's some bad news, because if a node has been moved, you'll need to find a new node and put a nice little miner on there instead, or move it rather. You may remember that making computers, if you've gotten to that part of the game, requires a lot of screws, like insane amounts of screws. And that has been changed. They don't need any screws anymore. So if you follow the series, you know we have a pretty crazy screw production facility over here that is fueling the computer factory. And those screws are not needed anymore. So the only thing you'll need to do about that is, well, you don't need to do anything about that, but you can disconnect the screws from being input into the computer factory. So this is the computer factory. You remember that. And this obviously can be disconnected now. So disconnecting that, we should now check out inside of the screw inputs that is going into this thing here. Here we can have the screws. They can of course be just disconnected. Well, they don't really hurt anyone being connected and all, but it's completely unnecessary. So if we run over here to where we're inputting that, okay, that's just some plastic. That's to make the circuitry. And we go over here. Here we have the manufacturers. And these are of course inputting screws. Or did. Now it's only circuit boards, cable and plastic. As said, it doesn't hurt to leave them connected. But now you can free up all those screws you had to make computers for anything else that you might think is good to do. Disconnected. Very nice. Alright, screws have now been fixed, and I just looked up what the fuel consumption for fuel generators was before. And before, it was actually 12 per fuel generator, not 20. So yes, they produce more power, but damn, they take a lot more fuel too. So I'm uncertain if it really is more efficient now, but whatever. So let us continue to check our factories. So here we have the copper producing things. And you can see this is set up in a pretty efficient way. I know that this hasn't been changed at all. So yeah. As for the series, the older the video is, ironically, the more accurate it probably is, because the early game stuff hasn't changed. I don't think anything in the early game has changed to my knowledge. So that is all set up, but you just go into the factories and you see if they are set up correctly or not. And if you are new to this little series, then you'll know that I have this little recommendation for everyone to always put the excess of the production into a sink. So this has a built-in sink, and it sinks the excess copper production when it's produced. Very handy, after it has filled up these containers. Anyways, that's something we can do, but now we need to check some other places. Like, for example, is the Caterium place still working? And as you can see here, it's looking pretty bleak. It looks indeed like our Caterium source has been changed a bit. Alright, so here we can see our AI limiter area is completely offline. And we just checked that it's not the copper source. The copper source is working absolutely fine. So that's basically something you have to do. You need to look at the different sources and see if they still exist. Here we have an area that's looking worryingly dead too. This is, of course, where we should have some quartz production. Here we have some basic quartz production, but you can see it's not a node here. This is not a node. So everything was set up in a correct way, of course. This is producing some silica and this is producing some crystal quartz. And this is, of course, a necessary thing for our factory to work. So what is this? This is a Mark 1 miner set to 100%. So remember whatever you had. Now you'll need to use the scanner. So we scan for some raw quartz. And it seems that the node has moved quite some bits. So here we are, and the next node is over there, or there. So here we can choose if we'd like to funnel resources to this place, or if we should just ignore this. This particular quartz is not used to produce anything really valuable. So this factory, you know, it's not really necessary. We had a sink here too, and here we had a miner as well. So we did produce quite some quartz here, but we were sinking a lot of it also. But nevertheless, this area is now a little bit defunct. We can, of course, as said, funnel the quartz resources to this place via having a long transport line. And if this was my only quartz production, I would do so. And if this was my quartz production that was fueling some other parts, I would do so as well. But this quartz factory is actually only going into sinks, and it's going into what is it called now? It's going into just boxes for me to use personally. So we're going to update on the map here. We're going to say defunct. So we can use this for something else. The infrastructure is here, so we can just connect up some other resource and set up the factory to do something else. But we're going to, I think we're gonna have a nice defunct color, like orange, build orange, so we know that everything is that color. So that's what we can do. Now we check this factory and nothing is relying on its production. So we are going to later check out our other quartz factory, which is a little bit more important, and that is of course going to be updated. Now, however, we are going to go to the quartz production facility. Oh damn. Well, I guess this is the closest route. See you in a while. Here we are in Caterium production land. You can see it's looking pretty bleak. The node is indeed moved, so the miner stands on absolutely nothing right now. And we'll need to do the same thing here. We'll need to see if we got any Caterium in close vicinity. And we have some Caterium in some vicinity. Here we have a normal purity one. And I do believe that this production we have right here was actually a pure one, right? We're going to check up a little bit what's happening over there. How it's set up. We set it up to be pretty efficient. Right. So let's travel over to the new Caterium place. I just double checked the production here, and it's set up to produce exactly 270 per minute. The speed limit of the Mark III belt, which was the fastest thing we had when building it. So it's all set up pretty well, and the only thing we need to do is to calculate exactly how much we need to input into it. Because I checked the production, and everything should still be perfectly balanced and efficient. So we'll just need to get a calculator, and if you look here to the left, you see Caterium ore 18 per minute. That's the input rate for this one. This is 36, and the rest of them are 36, so it means 18 plus 36 plus 36 plus 36 plus 36, which is exactly 162. So we will pick this miner up and go over to the new source and make sure that we are getting 162 ore home. Then we'll need to check the belts here. So we'll need at least a Mark III belt in order for us to be able to provide this output. By the way, a really cool thing that has been added is that we have a build mode straight for conveyor belts, so we don't need to do the 2 steps that way weird thing we had to do before. Now we can just click R and we can build straight. That's a super handy little trick to make you not confused. Or make me not confused, at least. We're back at base here, and we have a little problem with the Caterium ore. This is not the Caterium, but we have one of those blocks covering our node. And we haven't had time to go through this in the earlier episodes, so now we are going to do that. As you might understand, we need to blow them away. And to do that, we do have the Obelisk detonator. So this is something we'll have to research. Awesome. So now we have the Obelisk. We're also going to research the jetpack so we can carry some extra inventory. As you can see here, it's about just trying to clear up all of those old stuff you haven't researched yet, or where the order has kind of been, well, replaced.
Milestone reached. Fix-It has
We're just gonna put together an object scanner, and with the object scanner we can make the Obelisk detonator. And that is the thing that is required to use explosives. So here we have the Obelisk, and we require some black powder and some, well, steel pipes. So in any case, we don't need a lot of them, we basically only need one, but, well, we can afford the jetpack too, so we will create it. We can use the jetpack instead of our parachute. Now it doesn't have any fuel, we haven't unlocked the packaged fuel yet, but we have the automated production of solid biofuel, and that can of course be used. There we have it. Maybe not the best fuel, but now we can fly. Shorter distances, but that's something. While we're on it, we should of course unlock packaged fuel, so we have that already done. So we're just gonna fill up this space here. Fantastic. Now it's so handy to move around with the jetpack. So, we're going to try this one. And blow it up by right click. So that's how we do it. We're going to do that for some other areas as well. And I'm going to show you a little nice trick that you might not know about, because one of them is new. One thing is, we can blow up these guys if we're a little bit more specific. I thought. Okay, never mind. The other things we can blow up at least. The ones that are gas producing, they may be blown up. The towers of, what can we say, like stone-ish pillars that emit green gas, they can be blown away by explosives. Previously in Satisfactory, you could blow them away. The plants that stand up and put out the toxic gases, they could be blown away, but the pillars, they could not. So it seems they switched it around. They actually thought that both of them would be removable now, but, well, there it is. Here we have our Caterium production area. So we have already lined up the output to go back to the base there. But we're blowing this thing up here. So now we can use this Caterium area. So we remember, if you remember from before, we have a specific amount that we need. And that is, let me check my calculator. 162 would be too embarrassing to mix it up. So here we have a miner. We'll just need to connect up some electricity, which we can do on our free spot on our power line here, closest one. Okay. So here we have the Caterium, and as you might imagine, this is now producing 120. We need to boost it to 162 to be pretty exact. Click enter right there. And we can actually have a 0.2 or something, so we have a slight overproduction, just a slight one, so that we don't have a lack of them. That could sometimes be the case. Sometimes it can be a good idea to just have slightly overproducing things if you have with weird math to do. Because sometimes the math you think is pretty accurate isn't, and if you just have that tiny little buffer zone, it's gonna be a-okay. Isn't that too funny? So we're just having a temporary little input here. We might cover this up, making it look nice and stuff later on, but as you probably already understand, we have selected this little line here. You can see it's going from here to here, and then it's actually going back to where we're having the Caterium production. So here we are, coming with the Caterium to the Caterium production area. And that will mean that in a few moments it will start to output Caterium again, specifically Quickwire, which is this thing which is called, that is vital for our production. So the Caterium problem has been solved. We'll just need to wait for it to actually get here. And one little handy tip when you're using your jetpack is that if you run and then you click Control to, you know, slide. So you slide, and then when you slide, you jump. So then you can kind of get a head start, so you move quickly, just like the classical slide jumping. You didn't see that, excuse that. But you just slide jump and you fly away like this. You run, slide, jump, and then you get some speed. And the smart thing you can also do, you can hold shift and you can get some speed on this thing. And whenever you have enough speed, you just, in small bursts, activate the jetpack like this. And that will make you basically fly in a good, pretty high speed a good while. So that's how to use the jetpack if you haven't used it before. It's a really handy way to kind of get around. And that's of course very well paired with the hypertube cannon, which is an essential equipment for fast traveling if you're having the jetpack and the hyper cannon. Of course, pack up. If you get out of fuel, you will be a very sad person and flat. Oof, and for those of you who played Satisfactory before and were so happy with the blueprint maker, there is actually a larger blueprint maker now. There is an even larger one, I believe, also later on. So this is something you can unlock if you thought that the blueprints made in the Mark 1 one was a little too small. Well, now we have different sizes of blueprint makers. One thing to also know is that sometimes the purity of a node was changed. so here you can see it is pure. I don't know if it was pure before, but check around on your different factories that are using different nodes, because a few nodes have been changed, not in location, but in purity. And that, of course, messes up your entire production, in case you didn't think of that. So that's quite important. If your factories are misbehaving, if they're not producing the level they did before, check the purity of the nodes. And, well, that might be the explanation. Well, now it's time to check out what happened with the Quartz, the proper Quartz facility. Also, there is another little area we need to check, and that is industrial, encased industrial frames. Let's see here. So be quite sparing so you don't overuse it. Right. Like I did just there. Ouch. And unfortunately that didn't, nothing bad happened. Whoops, 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 whoops. So, change of plans. We landed in the encased industrial beams facility, and because this is also an area that needs a little bit of overlooking / fixing, we might as well work that out straight away. Because this is also something that has been changed. The recipe for making encased industrial beams now requires more concrete and less steel beams. So basically, just check on the assemblers here. We can see 18 steel pipe per minute, 36 per minute. Take whatever amount you have that, and so that's basically times 3 for me. So 3 times 18, 54, and 3 times 36 is 108. So we need 54 steel beams per minute, not more, and we need 108 concrete per minute. So we need to check these values. Here we have 30 in total. The rest of them are coming from the floor below, so we'll go down here and check. Right, so we have 2 machines below here too. They produce 15 each, so altogether we have 60, and what we want is 54. But then we'll need to adjust the rest of the things also, so this is a slight bit of inefficiency. I will accept. The efficiency will be much better when we are improving the concrete coming in here. But basically this is a fix of a previous base here, so it's up to you exactly how tuned you want it to be. You can tune it perfectly, of course, as well, like we did earlier. Oh lord, it's radioactive here now. Scary stuff. Alright, and inside of here, each of them are producing 15 concrete per minute. We have 5 machines, 5 times 15. That is 75. And if we look at the input here, it's 45 per minute, 5 machines, 225. The belt's capacity is at Mark 3, so it's 270, as you can see here. So fortunately, we have 480, so we can just upgrade this facility. So that's what we're going to do. This is a Mark II miner, and we're going to up the production a little bit here. So basically, we're going to make sure we produce a little more than 108 concrete per minute, like at least. Because if we can do that, we can actually overclock the encased industrial beam production line as well, since we already have a little bit too much steel beams anyways. And then we can get closer to the right levels, which is very nice. So what we're basically going to do, we need of course a lift here. So we can begin with upgrading the belt that transports into them to Mark 4, so we can feed it faster. Then we can start boosting the miner as well. Now it's a little bit annoying here that if you're watching this, excuse the darkness and the everything like that. It's a bit messed up, and that's only because we have enabled lumen, so it's get really dark in here naturally, which is moody, but yeah, requires a different building strategy. And then we also have yeah, it's a little bit crammed, isn't it? So here we can overclock this thing. Now that was really fine-tuned before. So if I just did a little quick calculation, if we have a 50% boost of the production, we will produce 112 concrete per minute. So what we're basically gonna do, we're gonna put in a power shard in each of them, and we don't have to make new machines. We can simply just fix it by tuning it a little bit. So if you need a little bit more or a little bit less of something in this game, you can of course underclock it to be very efficient or overclock them to be a little bit lazy, but works fine too. And this is a Mark II belt, and that has a capacity of 120 per minute. So we can leave it there actually. We're only gonna produce about 112. Now we'll need to see what production we need. It's 67.5. It's gonna be different for you, of course, dependent on what you have. We're gonna have it to times the amount of machines, which is 5, and the result is 337. So we'll go to this overclocked machine, and 337 is what we should aim for. 337.5, so 38. And don't forget to click enter. There we have it. Right, welcome to the slightly radioactive area. So we're not gonna want to hang out here too much. That's very certain. But anyways, here we have the beams here. They will get a little too much production here. So to make sure that they are actually producing things a little bit quicker, we can overclock one of them a little bit to make sure it's gonna use all of those steel beams. If I recall correctly, that's how to speak, we are producing, is it 6? I think it's 6 steel beams more than we need to. So if we just add 6 to this, if we set it to 100 just to make sure it's 18, 19, so basically 25 then. If we can get this number up to 25, we should be using all the steel beams we are thrown at, and possibly also probably all the concrete. So this will be a very good enough solution. I feel like it's almost back at 100% efficiency. Well, just a little bit of fixing. Now I feel like the radiation is killing me, so we're gonna get out of there. And the Mercer sphere has uses now, so it can be a good idea to collect them. Oh crap.
The effigy has no song, only echoes, but it is part of a river.
What?
The effigy avoid the window.
This is new.
Attention. Your brain's operations are outside typical parameters. Time spent daydreaming will be deducted from your sustenance budget.
Well, that's nice. So we're trying to locate the quartz area we had, right? And that's right over there. All right. What is purity temp? That's weird. Anyways, it's straight ahead of us, so we should go over there and check out our facility. Another thing, if you're new to jetpacks, do have your Blade Runners on you also, because if you have jetpack without a Blade Runner, you will take full fall damage and you will most likely, unfortunately, die pretty often. So, trying to find my old quartz producing facility. I do think that the map has been updated so much in this region so that these sectors have been straight off cleared. There is nothing here. And that is a little bit unfortunate, of course, but it doesn't matter that much. On the map we can see that over here we got some other sources of quartz, so we might as well move over there. I don't think we need to build it all the way over here again, since it wasn't used for anything very important anyways. But it's a very good lesson to learn if you decide to keep your save, like I'm doing with this particular save. Well, then you might have to get to the hard places where you'll actually have to rebuild an area anyways. Not all of your factories, of course, but certain areas may not be recoverable, because where the map have changed the most, we can't really expect it to work still. Since I think that all structures that were placed in that area were just cleared out completely, so that it wouldn't appear any weirdness of any kind, and just, you know, clearing them and leaving it at that, basically. I think that's how the game development made, because if they wouldn't have cleared the areas, it would mean that stuff would be left inside mountains, and I don't think the game engine would be too happy about such things. Unfortunately, I completely misremembered. We actually hadn't started to do anything with the quartz, but I did plan to use the other source that's now gone, or like the entire area that's gone, to make some crystal oscillators. But that will be for a future episode where we do that, because we need to build that quartz factory again. And we have an earlier video about that when we set up the quartz facility that the node is now gone. So check that out if you want to learn how to do that. I will connect up a little quartz production to this line with the quickest, closest source, which is like over here. And now it's high time we continue with another recipe that has been changed, and that's for heavy modular frames. So basically they are using encased industrial beams, steel pipes and screws, and they're still using that, so don't worry about that. Thing is, however, the formulation has changed a little bit. So now it's using 240 screws per minute. Before, if you have an old one, it was using 200 screws per minute. So we'll need to input an extra 40 screws per minute to make this go smoothly. Then it also uses 10 more steel pipes per minute than it was using before. So if you don't have the capacity on your line to make it basically increase in 10 more per minute, you'll have some problems. But for me, the only bottleneck we're having here is, of course, that we need to make sure that more screws are running in here. And we're having a pretty hefty screw production over there, like this one, for example, produces 50 screws per minute, and it's being outputted over there. So what we instead can do, we can just take this and we can just insert it here. We're just gonna click R so we get straight lines instead. So much easier to set up now. And this will effectively be inputted into the merger there and will go inside here. And you might wonder, what? Can I just remove that from there? Won't that mess up the screws? No, actually not, because these screws were actually going to the computer manufacturing. And the computers don't require any screws anymore, so, well, we're very fine. So now this should be ticking up in efficiency and produce the heavy modular frames just very, very fine. And we have a slight overproduction of screws here, so technically we can of course drag this down to exactly 40. We need to click enter, 40 per minute if we want this to be a little bit more efficient, but of course then it should also be reflected on the other areas with the ingot production and all that. So when we are saving or fixing our old Satisfactory base, it can be a little bit difficult to make it 100% efficient. But if we have a fun base that we really like so much and don't want to get rid of and just want to make work again, well, then it's definitely worth it. And if you want to tweak it to exactly 100%, well, it's just going to the miners, it's just going to the smelters, and it's just going to all the different parts as I have shown you in this series how to do that if you want that. Nonetheless, the future builds will of course be, as usual, 100% efficient. Now that update 1 is already released, we can be pretty sure that not too much will change too much in the future. Probably. We'll see about that. And so cool and nice of the Satisfactory game development team to actually make it possible to fix our old bases and still playing them in the newest version of the game. Like you can see, a lot the slugs have been replaced, and many of the foliage and mobs are replaced again there. So that's really like amazing. We have so many power shards if we decide to keep an old save. That is for certain. Oh, I just realized, look at this. This thing is still here, and the other thing died. Oh look, they do die. Did I just not have time to actually see them dying, or what happened? Ah, glad that works. I was a little bit sad that you couldn't blow them away, because they are so annoying. Well, in any case, that is all the recipe changes I know about. But move around, check if your factories are working, and if you find a recipe change that I missed, please share it in the comments so everyone can see that. So check in the comments if we missed anything, recipe. There might be some later game recipes which we haven't dwelt on yet that I was not able to show. But in any case, please share that information in the comments field for everyone else who wants to keep a old base alive. In any case, hope you enjoyed this video. The series shall continue, and do leave a like and subscribe for future videos. This is your host, Eric of GMODISM. We're signing out.